Before anyone spoke about GCP, in ancient Greece, Hippocrates developed the oath that still carries his name, "Do no harm to the patient." This oath has been transcribed in a modern version, adapted to today's medicine, and is known to all doctors throughout the world. Nevertheless, despite this oath, which has been actively used since Hippocrates' time, harm to patients did occur. There are numerous cases in history that we can point out to illustrate the harm. We will only take a few examples involving prisoners. In 1906, Dr. Richard Strong and a number of physicians in the Philippines used the cholera virus on prisoners in Manila without their knowledge. After 13 casualties were found, the local authorities stepped in and the Philippine physicians were sentenced. Despite this legal action, Dr. Strong managed to continue his research for 6 more years on the Philippine prisoners. Finally, further legal action stopped the research after many more deaths were reported. It is also known that the few survivors were compensated with cigars and cigarettes. Between 1918 and 1922, hundreds of prisoners in the state of California received transplantations of animal testicular material with no medical benefits at all for the prisoners. In 1934, after years of animal trials, a tuberculosis vaccine was cleared for human use and tested on prisoners in the Colorado Penitentiary. The governor, Edwin C. Johnson, promised volunteers amongst the prisoners executive clemency upon survival in exchange for their participation. The clemency promise was heavily criticized by the community, but not the fact that the research was conducted on prisoners with significant coercion. On the 20th of August, 1947, Gerhard Rose and 22 collaborators stood trial at the Palace of Justice in Nuremberg for the conduct of the Nazi experiments. These involved extensive research conducted during World War II by the Germans on prisoners. The research involved testing of effects of cold, heat, and various chemicals on men, women, and children, and time-to-death testing in response to stressors in healthy prisoners, as well as experimental organ transplantations on healthy prisoners. Prisoners were informed about what was involved, but this information did not matter since prisoners were not given a choice. The trial involved several American judges, so during the hearings, Dr. Rose cited several experiments conducted in the U.S. on prisoners and accused Americans of equal guilt to the Nazi experiments for conducting research on healthy prisoners. We will stop here with the examples from the past and present, but these clearly demonstrate the need for the basic principles of good clinical practices. To summarize, we have seen that unethical research was conducted on prisoners and minority groups, not to mention handicapped people. We noted that insufficient research prior to human use led to serious harm. And finally, we discussed the examples of fraud and misconduct, which led to false data prior to product release.